Welcome into Sports Memos podcast for August 13th. CFL, every game on the board with our Canadian expert in football, Andrew McGinnis. Welcome into the podcast. How you doing today, buddy?
Good, Drew. Love the enthusiasm. It's going to be another great week. CFL Week 10, man. It's unbelievable. It feels like time has absolutely flown by. It's been a great summer, and I hope it has been for you. What's new with you, Drew? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm pretty much full force college football mode right now, but happy to stop here and talk a little CFL, something I like to bet. I think it's a beatable sport. You've done a great job so far this year, McGinnis. 20-13 on the year, 63% profits for the clients. You also got your 5% best bet up for Week 10. And it's up there, guys. The new pricing, it's $40. But with the podcast coupon code of podcast, that's PODCAST, podcast at checkout, you can get Andrew McGinnis's 5% top play for just $9. That's a huge discount there. So check it out at sportsmemo.com. Let's get right into this, McGinnis. We got BC Lions at Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 51.5 the total. Blue Bombers, number one in the division. BC last in the division, sitting at just 1-6, 0-6 in division. They're catching 11.5 though. Do you think this is a strong enough number for Winnipeg at home, man?
It's a very interesting game here, Drew, because you look at a team like Winnipeg that's still a great team, still above the top of this league, but they've failed to cover the point spread in a few consecutive games, and they haven't really looked like themselves. So you kind of wonder if they can get back into it against a very poor team like the BC Lions. And, they're laying a lot of points, 11.5, 12 points. That's quite a few points. And, hats off to BC. They've been covering some point spreads recently. Take a look back to last week, their game against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They go on to lose that one by just 1 point, 35-34. They were in position to actually win that one at some point. And, it was a late fourth quarter comeback by the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and lots of credit goes to Dane Evans getting the job done there for the Tiger Cats. But I was impressed by the BC Lions. Mike Riley passing 75%, 306 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. It really seems to me like this BC Lions team is getting the job done. They're stepping things up, starting to at least gain some more chemistry. Brian Burnham, Lamar Durant, Jerron Carter and company getting the job done offensively, but it's just really a sin that this team can't get anything done defensively. Averaging 34.5 points against, on a week-to-week basis. You just can't be doing that. It's unacceptable, and it's tough for this team to get anything going. And, an offensive line that doesn't really give Mike Riley any sense of security at all has been really tough, and their pass rush has been absolutely horrible. They've actually just recently brought back Sean Lemon from the Toronto Argonauts back to the BC Lions. Of course, he's played there before with them. Lemon, who has a few Grey Cups under his belt, hopefully bring a little bit of a veteran leadership to the pass rush for the BC Lions. But it's an interesting one, like I said, because Winnipeg is kind of due for an explosive game here. I just think this is too many points. I would actually have a lean to the BC Lions here. On the plus 11 number here. I actually have my 5% play though on this game, on the total in this one, so you can go over to the website and grab this for the discounted price like Drew mentioned for just $9.
Yeah, check that out. The coupon code is podcast at checkout. It comes just $9 with that coupon. So good stuff there, McGinnis, on the first game. We got the second game up here on Friday night, August 16th, Edmonton at Toronto. This total's 49. Edmonton, who I believe blew out Toronto earlier in the season, McGinnis. You can speak to it more, but they're laying over a touchdown here, 8.5 at most shops, seeing a 9.5 now show up at Bet Online. Also some 8s out there as well. So some opinion on this game with Edmonton versus Toronto in a rematch here. It's an interesting kind of tricky handicap, but mostly 8.5s out there, McGinnis. How are you viewing this one?
It is interesting, Drew, and the first thing I look at is, the big number with the Edmonton Eskimos, a team that I don't really rely on to cover big point spreads. And it's a team like Toronto right now that's coming off a bye, but before that bye, they actually got their very first win of the season in comeback fashion. McLeod Bethel-Thompson had his best game of the season by far and getting the job done there. And if you want to look at his worst game of the season so far, like you mentioned it, Drew, you teed it up for me. That was the last time this team played the Eskimos when they lost 26-0, putting up 0 points. Unacceptable from them there. But I really do expect this Argos team to come out, put forward a good effort. Of course, this number has been bet down a little bit, but you can still get, plus 9.5, plus 8.5, at some spots here. And I do really like this Argos number. It's been tough betting totals with this Edmonton team. I've been having some bad luck looking at the over with this Edmonton team. They've really, really stepped things up this year on the defensive side of things. Edmonton averaging 17 points against on the season, which is great. This is a team that was over machine, used to having this team average so many points in every game they're involved in. So it's great to see their defense get it together. I believe it's been 6 straight unders, Drew, for this Edmonton team, if not close to that number. But I'm going to take a shot here at the over in this one. 48.5. That's not too many points for a CFL game with a lot of talented players on each team. Toronto really getting it together, but I still don't trust their defense. That's one thing with Toronto. They're coming off a decent performance. And I also don't really like the fact they went right to a bye either. I don't really like that concept of having a huge win for your team, getting your first win of the season, and then going into a bye. I'd rather them just go play another game. But either way, they had more time to prepare for this matchup. And, this is a team averaging 14 points a game, but 34 points against. I think if Toronto can get some points together, build off that momentum from their first game, we can go up and over the total of this 48.5. So I lean to the over. Also do lean to the Argos. Don't trust the Eskies laying big points here, Drew.
All right, McGinnis. We got 2 games on Saturday. The early one here, Hamilton Tiger Cats at the Ottawa Red Blacks, seeing 49.5 or 50 being the total, and seeing the line anywhere from 3 to 4 with the road team, Ticats, laying on the road.
Well, it's funny looking at this one because, point blank, you look at these two teams and you think, Hamilton's the better team. They have more talent. They have more offensive firepower. And even on the defensive side of the football, they've been better. But Ottawa has kind of come back into the league as that defensive team that they were last year. And it took a little bit for them to get into that, that mindset and establish that position. But you look at their game last week in Week 9. It's not one of those ones where you get excited to watch and you're getting touchdown after touchdown. It was a boring football game. Against the Edmonton Eskimos. They put up just 12 points, but they did allow the Eskies to only score 16. And you look at this one, Drew, this is a bigger football game for the Red Blacks. Because especially, playing the head-to-head matchup, playing at home, this is pretty much probably their last shot to try and get ahead of Hamilton in that division, in that number 1 spot. So they're laying 3 here. And, to me, I don't think the Tiger Cats, I wouldn't have to lay that big number with them or that number. I'm just going to go ahead with the money line. And I don't like to lay juice too often here, Drew, but we're going to go ahead. I believe it's around minus 160, 165. And I think this one could end up being a close game. But Hamilton, even with Dane Evans in there, and I think that this number is definitely being affected by, Dane Evans being behind center. Even with him in there, he's proved that he's a solid quarterback and that he can make a difference for this Hamilton Tiger Cats team. And as we talked about, he's on this team for good for the rest of the season now. He is the number 1 guy. And just because, his first few outings weren't great, he went out and passed 72% in Week 9 against the BC Lions, put up 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. I thought that he was great. I thought he looked very comfortable. Some people seem to have this bad perception of him. I think they're comparing him to Masoli too much, but he is his own type of quarterback. I like what he can do. I like Hamilton Tiger Cats to get this one. People think it might be a rest spot for Hamilton, but I think this is a great spot for them after that huge comeback win against BC. They're going to go ahead here and take care of business against the Ottawa Red Blacks because, as we all know, it's great to have those wins against, an out-of-conference team like BC, but you also got to take care of things in your own division, and this head-to-head matchup against Ottawa will be probably huge to them. So I'll go ahead, stay away from the total in this one, going ahead and staying with the Tiger Cats on the money line.
All right, McGinnis, and you bring up Dane Evans and taking over for Masoli being out for the year, I believe. And in what last podcast or the podcast before, we talked about the big changes in just their differences of what they bring, their attributes, with Masoli being more of using his feet, kind of a quick guy. Not that he can't pass the ball downfield, but he's always moving around in the pocket, where Dane Evans is a little bit more of a vertical passing threat and not going to kill you as much with his feet. Have you noticed anything different in the recent weeks here with that change at quarterback for the Ticats that you think bettors can use going forward?
Well, I'll tell you, Drew, I saw in week 8 that, Dane Evans wasn't really given the comfortability I'm sure he would have liked to from the Ticats coaching staff. And they can talk about it, with the media. They can say that they're comfortable with him, but in due time, they'll get more comfortable with him and let him make those bigger plays. And I think that you look at him with 196 yards in week 8, passing 65.5%, only putting up 19 points. And then you go ahead and look at week 9 against the Lions and their huge comeback when he put up 260 yards. It seemed like from one week to the next, Drew, he had so much more ability to look. He looked comfortable back there. He had more confidence in himself. And like you mentioned, he's not as mobile. He just sits in the pocket, and he has got absolute whip of an arm. And he does his reads, and he finds his targets. But I will say, just from a week to week, just 1 week to another, Drew, he's looked very comfortable back there. That's really the most important thing. I feel like more than Masoli even, I'm comfortable with him going downfield. He's got quite the arm. I know you've watched him in college, and I love seeing him go downfield and try and find his targets.
So, but as far as like maybe from a totals perspective, do you see Hamilton slowing it down on offense, taking less chances, or are they throwing the ball downfield more and maybe speeding it up tempo-wise, or not much difference at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Drew. Yeah, absolutely. It actually has slowed down completely, and that's been affected by the total and the point spread, I'd say. Hamilton used to, be laying a lot of points, and like I said, 49.5. If Masoli's in there, this is at least in the 50s. This is in the 52, 53. So, having Dane Evans back there, I think people are still sleeping on him, despite his great performance last week. So I apologize if I didn't answer the question right at first. But, yeah, for sure, it's been affecting the totals big time, and I'm looking to take advantage of that.
No, all good. That makes sense, too. And we can see it from this opener down that the larger money or whatever would move this number down, the sharper bets here from 52.5, and we're seeing 49 now, as low as 49. So at least the early money, which tends to be the smarter money, is in agreement with you on the under here from almost a 3-point move towards the under. So good stuff, McGinnis. We got one game left here, the nightcap on Saturday night to close out the podcast. And guys, remember the coupon code podcast at checkout. It will give you Andrew McGinnis's CFL best bet for week 10. That's a 5% top rated play for only $9. It's a $31 discount there with the coupon code podcast at checkout. You can also check out his handicapper page. We have his full season CFL up there for only $199. That gets you all the way through the Grey Cup. And remember, guys, the CFL season is a long season, plus the playoffs. I believe, it's 18 weeks, McGinnis?
Yeah, 21 weeks total. You play 18 games. So, I mean, it's a long season, and there's plenty of time left. And, of course, that package will take you all the way up until the Grey Cup. And it's not a long playoffs, guys, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm not shy in the playoffs. I'll be firing away, back-to-back Grey Cups I've called, and I look forward to cashing hopefully one more.
Yeah, man. Hopefully we can close this out with the winner this weekend, and maybe get the people on the side of the winning program here at the end. Montreal Alouettes at the Calgary Stampeders, 51.5 being the total. Seeing -6.5 or -7. That's the home team, Stampeders.
Quite a bit of movement in this one here, Drew. Started off with -5 for the Stampeders. 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5 even here at Heritage. And, of course, this movement definitely comes from the fact that Bo Levi Mitchell, the big quarterback, the highest paid player in the CFL, is returning back to action. Of course, he was on the IR for several weeks, and he's making his big return. And you and I have talked about Nick Arbuckle, the backup quarterback for the Stampeders, and I think that people might be giving him too much credit, Drew. I think that he was good for the first few weeks maybe as a backup, but when he kind of started to assume that starting role, I don't think he was nearly close to what a starter should be looking like. Despite the ability for them to end up putting some points up, I think people are going to be very surprised how much different of a Stampeders team they really are once Mitchell is back behind center. And we're going to find that out here this Saturday when the Montreal Alouettes take on the Stampeders. I think, the number is moving in the right direction, obviously, but it's interesting to mention that the Alouettes have been covering point spreads left and right. I mean, whether or not they're getting the win or not, they're definitely covering point spreads, and they're sticking around. They're hanging around. But it's important to mention that They're battling some injuries right now. Devere Posey just came back into action. He just got placed off the IR. And now BJ Cunningham has undergone surgery today. He's actually now announced to be out for most likely the rest of the season. So that's a huge loss from the receiving core. And Vernon Adams Jr. Is questionable right now, still not confirmed if he'll play. And we all know that Antonio Pipkin did not look great, and Matthew Schultz didn't look great either. So it's a kind of a huge question mark for this Alouettes team. And I look at this Calgary team right now, and you see what they've been like, head to head against this Alouettes team. It hasn't really been great against the spread. I'll be the first to say it, and I'm not going to hide away from it. Alouettes are 8-1 ATS in their last 9 meetings against the Calgary Stampeders. The Alouettes are 9-2 against the spread in their last 11 games. But look, I'm not going to hide away from those numbers. I feel like this Calgary team, still second in their division, Drew, have not even been close to reaching their peak. A lot of people have written off this Calgary team, saying they're not, the leaders of the CFL anymore. That's an absolute joke to me. When you look at this Calgary team, I guarantee you're going to see a brand new team this coming week. You're going to see, healthy receivers. I'm going to see them drive the field, march the field with Mitchell back. That's their leader. That's their vet. And their defense has certainly stepped things up recently. I'm going to take, right now, the best number available, -6.5. We're going to go with Bet Online, -6.5 with the Stampeders there. I love this number. And I also do like the under in this one. 51.5. I think the Alouettes will slow things down, and the Stampeders at home will really put a lot of emphasis on their defensive end side of things. So we're going to go ahead and lay the points with the Stamps. They haven't been covering big numbers much this season, but this is the time they will do it. Get back to the way things used to be. Alouettes being horrible and the Stamps being outstanding. That's what we're going to see again here in Week 10. Look forward to watching that take a cash, guys.
All right, McGinnis, top play for the podcast sounds like it's Calgary Stampeders, -6.5. You get that at Bet Online right now. Some shops got 7, but like in Calgary in the nightcap on Saturday. Guys, check out his 5% top play, his best bet for the week. And you can get it for only $9 using the coupon code podcast at sportsmemo.com. McGinnis, anything else you want to throw out before we shut this down for the week?
No, I mean, I want to just shout out as well, and I've been tweeting about it, talking with you, Drew, but I'm also getting quite involved with the tennis as part of handicapping, and it's something that you can really check out. I'll be posting plays during the afternoon, evenings, and one thing particularly to look at, when you're on the website looking at my tennis posts, make sure you read the description and check out what time and what day that play actually is, because many people are so used to with baseball, Drew, basketball, CFL, whatever it is, being just at night, but a lot of people don't know tennis can be in the morning, afternoon, just late at night. So make sure you read that little description. I'll let you know what time the game starts, what percentage of my bankroll I'm betting, and we'll look to make some money in the tennis market.
All right, he's Andrew McGinnis on Twitter at McGinnis Picks. You can follow me at Drew Martin Bets. Feel free to reach out with any questions, what you want to hear on the podcast. All that works. So guys, best of luck with your bets, and we will be back tomorrow.